All right, everyone. Yesterday I gave a short breaking update. Of course, RFK Jr. dropping out of the Dem primaries, all but ensuring that Biden is nominated, by the way. He no longer has any opposition other than Marianne Williamson. She'll get a few extra votes from the never Biden-like crowd, but ultimately a lot of people, if you look at the Dem polling, are effectively just unaccounted for. That is, that in polls where there's a none of the above or not sure option, not sure is almost winning. In my opinion, this shows the lack of actual enthusiasm among Dems more than anything. Whereas with the Republican field, if you add the numbers up there, almost everyone's accounted for. Like there's somebody for them in the field because there's so many people. With the other side, it's more like, hey, I can either elect the senile vegetable that I don't like, and most Dems don't like him. His disapproval is going up rapidly right now due to the Israel thing, by the way. Or I can vote for the hippie grandma who thinks that sending orgonite to Vladimir Putin will cleanse his soul and stop wars. Well, pick your poison. Would you like to swallow a shot of formaldehyde right now, or would you love to inject yourself with some arsenic? Those are basically your Dem choices. RFK Jr. is a little bit of an enigma because if you ask the Democrats, he shouldn't run as independent because he's going to siphon votes away from Joe. If you ask the Republicans, he's not supposed to run as an independent because he'll siphon votes from Trump. I think that it's basically a 50-50 proposition. Here's why. The bulk of the votes that RFK Jr. is going to get in the general election, assuming he gains ballot access and doesn't have to be mainly just a write-in candidate, which he will proceed to do, I believe, the bulk of them will be Democrats. I can say that plainly. Well, his internal polling, I don't give a shit about his internal polling. Never listen to internal polling or anything that Karl Rove is adjacent to, basically. It's not accurate. Who's conducting the polling? It's not a firm with no axe to grind, or at least only an ideological axe. Like, well, we support the Dems, we're doing polling, but there's multiple Dems in the race, so there's no reason to skew the numbers. If you're performing the polling specifically for a candidacy, what do you want to do? You want to get paid by that candidate, by that candidate's people. If you show them polling that says they suck and nobody likes them, they might drop out. So you try to cherry pick that material as much as possible. If you want RFK Jr. not to have the whole Dem party attacking him, because he's been a lifelong Democrat, he has liberal views, that's his audience, you skew the poll to make it look like he's going to drain the Republicans more. His polling firm is lying. That's the long and short of it. Internal polls are conducted by every main campaign that ever exists, and they're always far whacked out, zonked beyond belief, far from reality. So I don't believe that. I believe it'll be mainly Democrats. Here's where, though, it gets interesting. Which Democrats? You see, there are multiple kinds. They come in different flavors, most of which suck. You have the hardline left. You have the missing link quasi-left with the so-called progressives, like an Elizabeth Warren. You have the core neoliberals. You have the fiscal hawks. You have the warmongers. The Dems have absorbed most of them from the GOP over the last few years. And then you have like the union working class Dems, the old guard Dems that used to be predominant within the party. They've been a dying breed. The Republicans have parasitized them. In 2016, several million of those Democrats voted for Trump. Most of them voted for Biden in 2020. You didn't need ballot printers going brrr, by the way, for that to happen. They abandoned Trump in some states. This was what happened in Michigan, for example. Think what you will about shenanigans in certain states. There's a plausibility behind Trump having lost a significant number of the votes he got in 2016 in several states due to their working class Rust Belt demographics. RFK Jr. has a great deal of swing among those voters. Under the current economic situation, I think that many of them would be inclined to vote for Trump. RFK Jr. will effectively be stealing voters that went for Biden in 2020 and Trump in 2016. Ergo, I see it as an even-sum game. I don't think that mainline Republicans, other than a few TDS sufferers that would never vote for Trump anyway, will be voting for RFK. And again, that doesn't change the metric. They already weren't going to vote for Trump. Voting for RFK Jr. means nothing. Otherwise, they would sit it out and probably not vote at all. The vote for a candidate that cannot plausibly win, therefore, is the same equivalent. The only thing it does is give RFK Jr. a vote that nobody else was going to get in the first place. I'm not worried about it, therefore, number one. I don't think, oh my God, Trump can't get reelected with RFK Jr. in the race. Again, I think it's basically an even-sum game and doesn't change anything. By the way, Cornel West a few days ago dropped his Green Party bid in order to just run independent as well. So you're going to see a Green candidate, probably from the further left, as well as possibly a no-labeler. So now you've got potentially 6 candidates with name recognition in the actual race. Whoever loses is going to absolutely flip their lid. Whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, whoever loses will be blaming those third parties and talking about the need to address the issue after the election. I suspect the Dems will be the ones losing. I still think that Trump has it in him, especially if he's arrested, literally put in a jail cell. I think he's got the advantage. Mainly because Biden's about to hemorrhage another probably 5 points of support because of his poor foreign policy choices. He made his bed, now he's going to lay in it, and it's at about the worst possible time. The whole unelectability of Trump issue, I think, goes out the window when another couple tens of millions of Americans become never Bidenists. Anyway, there's one final thing to be said. Quit your goddamn bitching about RFK Jr.'s independent run. That goes for Democrats, Republicans, never Biden, never Trump. Bitching. It's his right to run an independent candidacy. You can too if you want to. You can announce to the world, hey, I'm running for president. I've filed the paperwork. You don't have to gain ballot access. You could run an internet-only write-in campaign and probably get tens of thousands of votes. That'd be funny. I've thought about the wisdom of someday doing that, partially as a joke. The most absurdist platform in the world at this point would shine in comparison to most of the candidates we see there anyway. By the way, Hurd just dropped out and endorsed Nikki Haley. Whoop-de-doo. It's him and his 10 voters. That changes the metric about as much in the GOP primaries as a RFK Jr.'s independent candidacy will in the general election. They're going to put him in the polling, and I don't expect that the ratio of Trump v. Biden is going to change much. It'll probably fluctuate. If for certain Trump voters will like his message with regards to certain medical topics. But then they'll be confronted with his views on guns and environmental law and taxation and his lifelong membership in the Dem Party. And I think that most of them are going to say, yeah, no, RFK Jr. is better than Biden, but I'm going to vote for the Republican candidate. Likewise, certain Union Dems that at first will say, oh, RFK Jr. sounds like my kind of guy. Fuck this Biden shit. I think a lot of them in the end will still coalesce behind the Dems because they're going to be more worried about Trump, number one. Some of them, maybe not the Union Dems, but certain neoliberals that might lean in that direction because they fucking hate Joe Biden's foreign policy at this point. I think that in the end, though, a lot of them will coalesce behind the mainline Democratic Party simply because they want to vote for the person that can plausibly win. In the end, I expect that the third-party shuffle is being partially overblown right now by the legacy media and won't play quite as big a role, but the loser will blame it regardless for the election's outcome. Guaranteed. That's an official prediction. It will happen. That's about all. Peace out.